Well, folks, if you're anything like me, you find yourself putting away some edibles and wandering over to the schizo side of YouTube with this levels of consciousness thing. What is it? Oh, I see. It's pseudoscience, new age from some cringy tinfoil cult guy who took too much drugs. Got it. The Integral Developer Worldview. I still don't really get what levels of consciousness actually are. No matter how many videos I make about the altitudes levels of consciousness scale from Ken Wilber's integral theory, nevertheless, I still get people asking, okay, that's cute that the sun or whatever can be seen from these levels, or the history of the world, or your childhood, but seriously, what are the levels? Like, what actually are they? And you're gonna pull out a weapon, and you're going to injure me, because if you really want to know what altitudes actually, technically are, there are 12 levels of understanding what the 12 levels of consciousness are. Let's deliver an answer that you might actually want. Today, I'm going to describe the Level 7 Teal Meme second tier integral developer level of consciousness. That's my name for it. Because that is the level that would produce this chart. And that is the first level that is capable of actually fully understanding it on its own terms. Good video, but what are these levels? Look, guys. What is trailer? Why, trailer is my cat. That is what my cat is named. Yeah, but what is he? Well, you know what a cat is, right? Fuzzy, pointy ears, yeah? He's one of those, he's a cat. Trailer's a cat. Okay, so he's a cat, that's a thing about him. But what is he? He's an animal. Like, he creates warmth for himself and holds it in with fur and skin. He's got a heartbeat and a brain. Gives live young. I mean, what do you... No. I'm just saying, like, what is he? What is it? What is trailer? What are you talking about? Okay, wise guy. It is consciousness. That's the answer to all of these questions, and it always will be. It is consciousness. And now the correct answer is useless. We are dealing with the relative. Notice that if you look up anything in the dictionary, it will define it with words. Well, you wanted to know what the word meant, and it's giving you these other words. Now you have to know what those words mean. What is cold? Well, it's not being warm. Okay, well, what's being warm? Well, it's not being cold. What? So what's being cold? Well, it's when your body temperature's low, when you're cold. You said cold, you can't do that. That's a reflexive definition. This is tautology. Tautology, I say. Objection. Explain to a blind person what the color red is, if you please. What is red? What is red? Where do you get that? Where are you getting that? How could I understand red without seeing it? We have a philosophical issue here, folks. What are levels of consciousness? Oh boy, I've been banging my head on this one for a good long while, and the fact of the matter is it's pretty well explained by levels of consciousness. Level 7 gets it. Pre-level 7, you have to understand it by some sort of analogy or some sort of definition which doesn't really say what it is because language is just a way of reflecting back what we already know. We don't really notice this in common speech because we're mostly dealing with the known, but language emblematizes, makes emblems out of the things that we already understand. So let's create the word levels of consciousness. We've called them memes. Memes. Did you look up memes? Do you know what memes are? Do you know who came up with that? It was me. Me, right? Meme, me. Richard Dawkins. Okay. The guy who argues about God not existing. That's another thing that he does. In order to understand levels, you're going to have to be wrong. This is why nobody understands levels, because nobody is wrong. So that's what I'm up to. That's what I'm doing. Why do you think I enjoy this, guys? You think I like this? I love it. But lying is not every form of dishonesty a sort of abandonment of the self, and thus of reality. From your perspective, there is no reality besides what you know and how you know it. Certainly, if I share everything with everyone, I should change my mind. I should be open to being a hypocrite over time as I develop, as I practice, as I get better. Better than what? Better than the old thing I thought. That makes me a hypocrite. That makes me a mind changer, a flip-flopper. That makes me wrong. I am here, in reality, holding a beacon, shining it out, asking who will shine it back. It's not about sharing myself, revealing myself. It's about showing you yourself through the vehicle of myself. I'm already dead. We are not at war. We are waking up. We can talk about how science proves everything, and it does, yes. But how do you know what you're proving? Where did that come from? Why did you choose that science? Reality is a relationship between subject and object. It's a relationship between subject and object, both not entirely known. Do you know all of objective reality? Do you know all of the self, consciousness, the nature of what you are, your psyche? These are unknown. We exist as a relationship between them, between unknowns, straddling a gulf of nothingness through a relationship between communication partners, observational phenomena, and practicing getting better. Reality is the evolution of consciousness. My spiritual warriors, this truly, not just as a funny thing to say, this is a fictional universe. This is a fictional universe. This is imaginary. This is constructed by us and by me and by you in collaboration or in utter rebellion because we don't know. And we have to know in order to operate. So we pretend. These are levels of consciousness, my transcendental cutie patooties. And we are growing up right now, and we're going to face the fact that this whole thing has been pretend. And will continue to be pretend moving forward. You ask me to tell you what levels of consciousness are already. Why don't you tell me, brother?
No.
Space. What is space? What is matter? Physicists don't know.
Oh, they don't?
They can say things about it, but not what it is. Because, as we said before, what is anything? What's an apple? It's a fruit. What's a fruit? It's part of a tree. What's a tree? We'll use synonyms, connections to describe the entire planet, and still haven't told what an apple is because it is actually impossible to say what something is without a given context or frame of reference. In walked altitudes, that's a context or frame of reference. A frame of reference with no synonyms. Uh-oh. They're levels, they're stages, a scale along a spectrum. They are imaginary. We know altitudes because we're level 7. And we say the universe itself is levels. An evolving stack of levels in self-culture and nature. So let's say things about the apple, about the universe, about altitudes levels that may help us hone in on what that level 7 awareness is. Altitudes are levels of mind, levels of increasing perspective, levels of transcendent awareness, and levels of maturity. Let us say that a child asks you, "Dad, what's it like being an adult?" Well, what's it like, Dad? Not only that, but how could you convey it specifically to an immature person who by definition categorically does not and cannot understand it? This is the game we're playing. We can convey a state. We can temporarily hack that kid's brain so he kind of sort of gets, in his own childish way, what adult life is. That's the goal of communication in this context. When we don't have mutual understanding, we're just going to create little state things inside your brain hole so that you can sympathetically resonate. It's not native to you. We're just zapping you with level information that'll create a virtual stage, a placeholder stage. Oh, okay, I kind of get what adulthood is. I kind of get what maturity is, says the child. They won't really get it. They won't think, feel, and do it for quite a while, but this will help them from their own childish perspective to understand what it is. And maybe the child almost seems to get what adulthood and maturity are. But then they go off to do childish things and it won't come up again for a decade or two. You can't grow up a child with words. You can't grow up anyone. I would not recommend trying to grow up other people. You can induce a partial state on them, like when you read a book, you get some tiny part of the author's mind operating in your own mind. Ooh. Sympathetic vibrations. This is a sad thing about how we don't read anymore. It's an incredibly deep way to intimately immerse yourself in the mind of a long-dead genius. Enough whacking around. If you are at level 7, the integral developer level as I call it, then you can comprehend what I'm saying, for the most part. If you are first tier, levels 1 through 6, this is why it's called first tier, as are most people and institutions today in this world, look around, that's first tier, then it will be like conveying the idea of adulthood to a child. There will be some degree of metaphor and there will be some degree of misunderstanding. And they will say, oh, so you mean it's like this? And you'll go, yeah, I guess it's kind of like that. It will be understood by analogy, metaphor. It will be a child's conception of adulthood, not an adult's one. But there are many things we can say to define this concept at all levels. And in fact, this is the great genius of Ken Wilber that he's able to do this so well. The integral level, level 7 teal meme, or what I call integral developer, natively and correctly understands reality to be a stack of levels. What I mean is, just as the level 3 red meme, selfish legend, person, only believes what they want to believe and what they see with their own eyes, just as a level 4 amber meme, true believer myth member, sets their fulcrum of reality in the authority of a group and some documents, just as a level 5 orange meme rational skeptic achiever sets their fulcrum of reality in empirical testing, proving whether things are right or wrong, just as a level 6 green sensitive pluralist existentialist sets their fulcrum of reality as a mysterious collective consciousness emerging from the unknown through relationships. Level 7 teal meme sets their fulcrum of reality at this very realization itself, that the mind, that humanity, that this is composed of evolutionary levels of consciousness. Levels. This is so hard to convey, you guys. Please don't get mad. Don't get mad. I know I'm kind of being condescending. It's for the sake of humor. When I talk to you, I convey points to you. You get the points. But what are those made of? So we know the letters. We had to learn that when we were little babies. We knew how to talk. We already knew how to talk, but then we go back and we start looking at what is this talking stuff made of? Well, it's made of letters. Okay. A, B, B, C, K, D, D. Letters. You put like D, A, D, dad. That's that word. That's the one that means by dad. What does that mean? Father. Well, what does that mean? Dad. Well, what does that mean? Reflexive definitions. Okay, so letters form into words. Words form into sentences. What's the point of that? Well, it's got to serve a greater context, a paragraph. Why did I say that paragraph? It's part of a larger work. That belongs in an oeuvre. Russian stacking dolls here. One inside the other, inside the other, inside the other, inside the other. It's not just letters. It's not just words. It's not just sentences. All of that stuff operates together. And this is analogy for what Ken Wilber calls holons. Holons are simultaneously a whole thing, but also a part of something else. And they operate in tandem with one another. And if you want another example of that, when you walk to the mall, every single cell in your body does the exact same thing. They all walk to the mall with you. They know they do it. Does that have any meaning from their frame of reference? No, none whatsoever. However, you go walk to the mall, all the cells in your body go there. All the molecules in your body go there. All the atoms in your body go there. All the quarks in your body go. Well, maybe some of the quarks do some other thing. We don't really know. And in fact, maybe some of them are only just a field of probability and not actually concretely real. And that's the basis of reality is actually not concretely. Yeah. We can get into that. We can get into the why words can be, why letters make words and all of that. But what we're describing here is levels. These are levels, holonic levels, which operate as wholes and parts together at various levels. You can't ignore one. You can't have sentences without any letters. You can't just have letters. That doesn't help anything. It doesn't serve any purpose. If you're just running around going, A. In mathematics, one of the first things you learn to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We learn in any language, you're going to learn that. Just add 1 each time. Well, okay, let's say we got to do that really quick. This is where we learn about addition and subtraction. You add 1, but do it 5 times. 1 plus 5, that's 6. You go to a higher level here. Then what happens? You all went to school. Multiplication and division. It's the next level of addition and subtraction. We're making operations of repeated counting. What happened if I had 10 32 times? That would be 320 total things. Weird. How did you do that? It is kind of weird, right? But that's multiplication and division. And then you keep going to school, roots and powers. You say, yeah, but multiply it out this number of times. How about that? What about this number times itself 15 times? And you're not even done there. This is where we get to the good math. Integrals and derivatives. Note that word there, integrals. How to change functions, including powers, addition, multiplication, all these operations we've looked at before, and consider them on a meta level to make a master formula that governs them all. Well, now we're getting, if you don't know how to count, it's not going to be very useful to you. So this is cumulative, and that's why it's levels, and that's why it's Holons. However, these are not social Holons. These are not the Holons in question that are the nature of reality. These are whole parts operating as systems at levels. But now I'm going to say that your mind, your world, your reality, your society, your culture, your understanding, this has the same nature as what we just described about language and math. Not surprisingly, since those are so central. That's our central way of describing reality. You come into this world as any old baby. You know nothing. You're instinct. You just automatically do the things you do because that has historically not killed your ancestors and caused them to bone, dodge danger, create more of you. Here you are. But then you interact with other people, pragmatically also trying to stay alive, communicating with each other, developing memes, communicated patterns that may assist with that survival and that reproduction. Perhaps on the physical level of boning and dying, but also maybe just as ideas. Maybe certain symbols, certain concepts survive better and reproduce better. Memes. This is the idea of memes. So that any old baby, default instinct, level 1, ignorant self, becomes more self-aware of being a part of a system, becomes aware of how other people are also similar in nature, becomes aware of how consensus forms between people, becomes capable of criticizing that consensus. Well, those are the stages, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, This is how they work. You operate upon the former thing. So this is why you cannot skip stages. You cannot go from stage 1 to stage 12. You cannot go from stage 7 to stage 10. You could do it real quick, I suppose, but it's going to collapse. It's like building a ladder out of beer cans. Rather clumsy. But this is a long-term gradual process that requires practice, training, sensitivities, coordination, familiarity, intuition. And that's why this levels system is a universal fact of human nature. That these are the patterns. Each level requires the previous ones as necessary components, coming back to Holons. Because if something exists as a continuum or stack of levels, then each level will contain what I call currency, the bits of that level, the letters in each word. The currency of words is letters in Unthink Me speech. I use this word currency. It's not from Ken Wilber's integral theory, but it's right in there with it. Each of these currencies are mimetic operands of what Wilber calls social Holons, or beings at levels. They use these currencies at that level. A holon is a whole entire unit at its own level, but it is constructed of the parts, which are whole entire units at a lower level. And of course, it itself is a part of a whole that exists at a higher level, potentially. All the way up, all the way down. That sounds kind of specific, odd, kind of, what's the point? Only this. Quarks are part of subatoms, which are parts of atoms, which are parts of molecules, which are parts of cells, which are parts of tissues, which are parts of organs, which compose my body. Holons are literally the nature of the universe, the meaning of life, the structure of everything, the currency of reality itself, as understood at level 7 and 8. This is not weird. It's not irrelevant. It's not a catchphrase. I'm literally talking about the nature of reality. Simply this. Everything forever. So that's what levels are. A measure of the evolutionary inclusiveness of Holons. So I just described the physical universe as levels, if you noticed. Not only is material reality made of developmental Holons, the mind is also made of developmental Holons. I myself am an evolving stack of levels. Altitudes are the spectrum of consciousness available to the human mind. I don't know why light, the electromagnetic spectrum, is a perfect analogy for this. It's not part of the theory that this is actually true. It is a metaphor, but it's a great metaphor for the nature of reality, that it seems to echo the electromagnetic spectrum of light, different frequencies of light, and it seems to behave in a rather similar way with this sort of flexing and flowing waves and streams of development. Very squishy, if it sounds clunk, 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 that's not, it's just for the sake of understanding. It's a very squishy process. Think of the development of civilization. Very, very awkward, very awkward. Ken Wilber first described it as a spectrum, like the spectrum of visible light. So it can be 12 levels, as in altitudes, but it doesn't have to be 12. We just made those divisions like Fahrenheit, Kelvin, Celsius. Altitudes, spiral dynamics, levels. As we said before, childish and adult, that's a 2-stage model. You got children, you got adult. Rather general. You see, Timmy, there's 2 types of people in this world. There's grown-ups, there's kids. There's a 3-stage model that you can use. We could say egocentric, ethnocentric, world-centric. That's 3 stages. Depends on where you want to put that point of focus, where your boiling point is. In this case, we're looking at how the self develops from only really caring about its own needs, its own protection, its own little system here, to then embracing a community and starting to develop values that embrace a larger identity as part of a collective. And finally, to have an abstract identity as whatever is ultimately the truth, whatever is ultimately right, the existential world-centric global self. That's 3-stage model. One that I like to use in my 4 selves mini model, consistent with Jung, consistent with Wilber, you could say personalities, ego, psyche, consciousness. 4 stages. The whole level system. Instead of 12, we just divided that into 4. So these 12 stages are not nature. They're more just a way of seeing it that works really well. You can make the stages 3, 5, anything you like. You make it 100. If that served some purpose. So yes, you will see this spectrum described with any number of stages, and it's still true, and it may only describe part of the spectrum. That's most common, as a matter of fact. The 12-stage model is particularly unique in being inclusive of a really radical range of human experience. For example, a lot of stage models that Wilber integrates that are used are from classical and contemporary psychology studying childhood development only. Just how do you get from being a kid to adult? How do you do that right? Not the greater heights of maturity, not enlightenment or ultimate fulfillment of the human potential, but just simply how do you get from being a kid to an adult successfully? Because some people don't pull that off. So we have developmental psychologists. They say, oh, well, there's these sort of stages. The child becomes obsessed with this at this age. They start understanding this at this age. They become able to conceptualize this at this age. This is a very common reason to be studying developmental stages. In the clinical sense, how can I be sure my child is growing upright? And then, in the positive psychology, how can I be sure my adult self is actually a fully developed, healthy adult? Because if you look around yourself, people, however you want to define maturity in adulthood, unless it's physical, you're going to find that if you look at the mind, if you look at the personality, you're going to have a lot of adults not fitting the description of what an adult actually is. All right, so this isn't just random thing coming from Wilber. This is a bit like the entire history of thought feeds into this idea that, of course, human beings develop. How does that work? What is the end game? Right? So this is synthesizing all that. It's integral. It's integrating all of that. But we're missing a little connective tissue between the material and the mental evolving stack of levels. In Western tradition, but really in kind of all global esoteric spiritual traditions, you'll find something resembling a great chain of being with a sort of nested Venn diagram, one that we might be familiar with or that we might know in Christian kind of Western society: matter, body, mind, soul, spirit. That's a great chain of being. This is levels, articulated in a pre-scientific time. Oh, no, you didn't. God comes into this, you're saying, oh, no, soul, spirit, so this is wacky stuff. Sort of. I mean, chill out. It'll all make sense, all right? Prior to time, this made sense. So you're the one being weird. Actually, this is something that people have always understood and still do. You don't like certain words because crazy people use those words, soul and spirit. Okay. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm not sure whether I'm crazy or not. How would you know? But I'm going to explain those words in a way that is quite rational Quite sensical. I'm not making this up. There's a reason people have called it that. There's a reason why it's conceptualized that way. There's not just stupid idiots understanding how the universe works. It's levels. So let's restate the great chain, that perennial wisdom, in more contemporary terms, with what Unthink Me calls meta levels. Matter, substance, the currency is particles, chemicals. Life, the currency is DNA and instincts, phylogeny. Mind, the currency is social concepts, memes. So you could just say matter, life, mind. Those are the three meta levels, writ small, right? Those are the three meta levels in the most simple sense. Those are the three evolving chunks of the stack. It's hard to understand those connection points, but we have done that work, and it's rather difficult to do, so we're going to skip past that here and refer you to those other videos. Each of these meta levels contains sublevels, like mind contains all the altitudes. Life contains the phylogenetic tree or web of life, expressing the currency of instinct and DNA. Atomic matter and molecular substance, we've already described. Quarks, subatoms, atoms, molecules, starts moving into life from there. So really, material and substantial existence is rather small until life enters the reality picture. It's really just molecules doing molecule things. The entire universe, really, until life happens. It can be very difficult to explain the crossover and overlap between these meta levels, which is why I'm not going into depth on that and considering it off topic for this particular presentation. But you can figure it out. How exactly did growing up work for you? How did I do it? At what point did that first chicken lay that first egg? You know, at one point, before you were a baby, you were a sperm and an egg. You know, at one point, before you were a sperm and an egg, you were just like chemicals inside a body. You know, at one point, you were the Big Bang. Is this the same thing as ... Yes. Yes, it is. It's essentially the same thing as New Age density to subtle maps, fear to love scales, the Kabbalah tree of life. Every shamanic, religious, spiritual, esoteric system under or above the sun, it is the same as conventional theories of cognitive, mental, social, values development coming from philosophy and from psychology and from mythological literature. Is it a scale of mental health from a clinical, developmental, or positive psychology perspective? Yes, it is. And this is what's on TV, the news, comic books. Yes, it's how your friends are treating you. It's the system and how we feel about it. Yes, it's the meaning of life. Yes, at level 7, it's workplace dynamics and business management, the purpose of civilization. Yes, yes, yes. We are talking about the entire nature of reality applied to a particular field or pursuit. Not only in the individual, but of course, individuals form cultures and societies upon the same cognitive aptitudes, same values, same maturity, and they build a technological base using these very same memes that exist in their own minds and hearts. We're just saying what it is, and I'm putting a backbeat on it. So I'm not, in fact, being glib or mysterious, but very literal and forthright when I point at this scale and say, this is what's up. This is the nature of reality. As good a map as any. Can you think of any reason whatsoever that mankind might be resistant to the idea that reality itself is a developmental process? A process of growing up, that it isn't finished yet. Any reason whatsoever that a mature adult, like the ones you know, for example, might not entirely be sold on the notion that they are about halfway to getting what's going on around here. Can you possibly imagine that people won't accept being told that this thing they've never heard of and don't really understand is actually superior to their fundamental view of what life, the universe, and everything is? No? And I'm saying all of this to prove to you, you are at a low level, and I'm at the top, and you need to be my slave disciple, and I can abuse you, right? I'm trying to prove the existence of God to you, to trick you, and take all your money, and subjugate you to the corporate patriarchy. Oh, but that it were still so simple. It's much worse than that. I'm here to save you from the delusion that you are a person, and you have a life that you stand to lose. That you aren't already gone, that you aren't an imaginary concept. You're right about me, everyone who responds when I use the Christianity hashtag. I am the devil Satan, the most dialectical thinker who ever lived, and I'm way cooler, funnier, and more moral than any of you are. All of that, and either we're moving forward together, or I'll catch you on the flip. What do we have to say for ourselves? Why is space full of matter? Huh? Why did the Earth's surface become life? Why did that life become people who can sing and dance and blow it all up? And what are we going to do about it? What I have attempted to do thus far is just to claim that levels exist, to raise awareness of this, and to develop our capacity to communicate about them together. Integral theory. I'm trying to convince the public that this is what it actually is, and not some other. And simply knowing this does not give you any homework. It gives you an option. Reality is an evolving stack of levels in self, culture, and nature if you see so. And if so, you are expressing level 7, whether you know what that is or not. And you are on my side. But levels does not necessarily give you any homework. It just turns the lights on, letting there be light. The fundamental creative act. It isn't a burden, it's a gift. Having a clear, light perspective on what this reality is will probably give you a better idea of what you are and what to do with yourself. Finally, these are perspectives. Higher levels may or may not be better, smarter, cooler, from your perspective. It's a value judgment made from a level. Altitudes are dumb, evil, stupid, wrong. From altitudes 1 through 6, the first tier. But higher levels are probably, realistically, more comprehensive, complete, inclusive of perspectives, whole, and at the very least, they are certainly newer. Now, isn't that refreshing? Does the history of thought present us with really great solutions? Have we got it all figured out? Or are you open to maybe giving the new idea a chance that's more comprehensive, complete, inclusive of perspectives, whole, and at the very least, newer? Think of all the different ways I can describe my car. And still, none of us will ever really fully understand what a car is. There's always more to know. The car is quarks. We don't know what quarks are. we don't know what the basis of reality, the car is made of that, right? You can get enough across that you get what it is, but it isn't sufficient to say, I've mastered this concept, I know what a car is. It's just saying, oh, a car, yeah, I get what a car is. Orienting generalizations. This is integral theory. And that kind of sounds like crappy, right? Like, oh, so you're kind of wrong about stuff. Yeah. But it's a step up from being totally wrong all the time. For not having any frame of reference or basis of comparison for anything, Like, what is the nature of reality? Does anyone have an answer to that prior to integral, other than a bunch of the first tier is it's kind of absolutistic in a sense. It's kind of a know-it-all. It's kind of narcissistic, closed-minded. It needs to be in order to mature. It has to hold down the fort, basically, in terms of concepts, because reality is really infinite and crazy. So this is why levels 1 through 6 hate levels. And then they do. Go teach levels to people. You'll see this. Go around teaching on a mission. You'll get it. It is too integral for them. Not abstract, not complicated. It's not over their head. It's kind of simple, really. It's just too integral for them. They need the nature of reality to not be how it actually is. So they use magic, myth, rationality, sensitivity, instead of seeing all of those at once as relative, partial truths. All true from the perspective of themselves. That's the integral worldview. If you see it that way, you're an integral developer. Lucky for us, we're taking over the world right now. That might mean a completely different thing from level 7. Doesn't mean violence, manipulation, doesn't mean control, doesn't mean subjugation, doesn't mean harm. It means compassion, means inclusion, means acceptance, evolution, growing up, waking up, cleaning up. It means seeing that all of this entire dialogue, this entire reality, this entire undertaking, this is all levels. I'm not in charge of you. I'm not the boss of you. But I do care about you, and that's why I'm here. I care about you a lot, and that's why I say namaste. So get pumped and go out there and start the meta-modern revolution in your own way, in your own voice, in the way that you're capable of, even though everything's so hard, everything's so big, and we're so little. I believe in you. I want to see this happen. It's not a waste. You haven't wasted anything. It's not pointless. You do have a chance. You truly can do this. One day at a time. Go for it. Go get 'em. I'm with you. I'm with you. I might even be arguing with you right now, but I swear I'm with you. I hope you like this video, guys. Thank you.